Councillor Charwood here with us. Thanks for coming. 2 days in a row we've been face to face at one meeting.
Right, that's the way to do it.
And I have the pleasure of swearing in a new board member here. And Devin is being sworn in. And Devin, you've got a few lines to, sorry, let me grab my pen. Okay. We can do sign this stuff off right off the bat. Okay, Devin. Great.
I, Devin Curran, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially perform my duties as a member of the Nelson Police Board. I will not, except in the proper performance of my duties, disclose to any person any information obtained in the course of those duties.
Here you go, my friend. Sign right here. This is the 41. So. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Shadow. Thanks. Go on in. Seat there or the seat up here. Okay, so with that, I'd like to start with the Aboriginal acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Kootenay, Silix, and Senex peoples, and is home to many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And with that, I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. By Liz. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you very much. And now we'd like to approve the minutes of the approve the May 22nd minutes and the June no quorum for the June 22 meeting. So a motion to approve the minutes from the May 22nd. So is thank you. On favor? Carried. Thanks very much. Recommendations for the Nelson Police Board adopt the minutes from May the 11th, 2022 as presented. We just completed that one. And presentations and audience with the board. None. Thank you. Public participation, and this is the section where anyone that wishes to say a few words is welcome to do so. Just give us your name and where you live, and then you have
3 minutes.
a maximum of 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be that long. I'm Sherry Walsh with West Kootenay People for Racial Justice. I live in Rosemont.
Thanks, Sherry.
First of all, we wanted to say congratulations and welcome to the newest police board member, Devin Curran. And we also wanted to thank you for meeting with us in May. We thought it was a really positive, constructive meeting, and we're looking forward to the next one. Then the next one, you're probably not going to be surprised about. We do understand that you cannot speak to the OPC, the investigation. But as our members who have been interviewed have stated, we're saddened and disappointed that there are serious allegations that require investigation, but we're pleased that an investigation is underway. And we hope that this process will be used as a catalyst for constructive changes in the culture of policing in Nelson and beyond. And because if that happens, then there won't be so many, there won't be problems, there won't be potentially inappropriate checklists. And we also sincerely hope, as former Solicitor General Cash Heed stated, that the results of the report will be made public, as transparency will assist the NPD in rebuilding credibility and confidence of the community. And I have one question, and I don't know if you can answer it. Do you have an estimated date for when the investigation might be completed?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we did discuss that, the chief and I. We have little control over the timelines. We would hope that it'd be potentially in the fall, but wouldn't count on it or past experience has been that has been random at best when we get results of these investigations. Yeah. Anyone else? None? Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to business arising from the previous meeting, Diversity Advisory Committee, Chief Constable's report.
Okay, so the advisory committee, I'll give you that update first. So we had our last planned or scheduled meeting with Dr. Magassa, who's the consultant we've been using to help get the diversity advisory committee set up properly and taking into account all of the process that we need to have in place prior to the committee getting off to a meaningful start. And Dr. Magassa, for those who aren't aware, is quite an advocate for the diversity advisory groups, and he's quite involved in these types of committees. He's set up the Victoria Police Department's advisory committee and works closely with them. So he's got a lot of background and credibility, and he's been through the process before, so it's been a great help to us. So we had the last meeting with him in that role as consultant, but he's asked to come back and participate in the fall meeting once we get that set up, just to meet the committee members that we actually have brought onto the committee and help us get that moving forward on a great foot. So right now we're looking at really starting to do some PR work around the diversity advisory committee. We've established like the strategic plan, I guess, the goals, the objectives of the committee. And we want to get those out to the community so everybody has time to kind of look at it, digest it, become aware of it, make it a really positive thing. And along with this awareness, that's going to help with the recruitment drive that we want to start in motion late in the summer here. So we can look at the fall potentially being sort of the official recruit drive. We have several strategies we've discussed on how to make that a meaningful recruitment process, and then the co-chairs, once they're identified and in place, as well as potentially one or two other people, will be part of the interviewing process, and that will be based on the objectives and that the setup committee put in place. So as I said, we're hoping by mid to late September to have the committee members actually identified and have the first meeting. Do the budget, I think, is next on the. Okay. The budget, a little bit more than usual this time to report on. We have some overages in some areas and some underspending in others. So we're actually doing pretty good on the overall budget, just over 1.5% over budget at this point. But given the number of challenges we've had so far this year and some of the resourcing issues we've had, I'm pretty happy with the fact that we're only slightly budget at this point. Helping a bit with the budget is whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure. In the context of the budget, it's a good thing. The prisoners we've been holding have increased significantly. So now that we've kind of made our way through COVID and with the courts bringing prisoners through for in-person appearances and things like that, that's boosted the numbers of prisoners that the department has held, and revenues are up that we get compensated by the province for holding the prisoners, up 87% at this point this year. So we're ahead on those numbers. The traffic fine sharing is usually a significant boost to the department's budget, but we don't actually get those until fall generally. It varies a little bit, but so revenues there will boost the numbers, the traffic fine sharing revenue, the numbers help bring the budget expenditure percentage down a little bit. In the police admin area, that's probably one of the areas we're seeing the most increase at the moment. But some of the funds are being spent on continuing education, professional development, some of those areas that have been a bit lacking the last couple of years. So we've seen a significant jump in that this year now that we've kind of opened up again. And maybe not surprising, the other area that's driving that number a little bit higher is some of our legal expenses. So that the generally the legal advice that we as a management team rely on to make some of the decisions, some of the issues within the department. So I think it's money well spent. Unfortunately, it's higher than I would like it to be, but I think we need to continue to make sure that we're getting proper advice and that we're moving things forward based on that. In the police operations area, material and supplies is another area where we're fairly high on spending. Our budget is 5,000 and we spend over 24,000 this year. But I caveat that with the fact that we are also receiving some grant funding that's been put out by the province around child exploitation investigations and that. So we purchased a fair bit of equipment that's related to that program and specific to conducting those investigations. So even though we're significantly over budget in that area, in the revenues portion, that's paid back to us. So basically it kind of cancels out. So we have been reimbursed for a lot of that money. So far we spent the 24,000 and received 19,000 back in funding the ICE initiatives. The other program that we initiated was the Guardian system, and that's basically a human resources system. And I know we've kind of reported on it previously, but I think it's very important that, along with some of the other things, the department is catching up with a better system in tracking people's performance, stuff like that, professional development. We've got some more timely flagging set up. So if there are some issues that are coming up, I mean, things aren't happening 8-10 times before we as managers hear about them. There's an internal system that flags it, so we can look into it and just see, maybe what the cause of the issue is and prevent something serious from happening because we're aware of it much earlier and take some proactive steps to address it. And I'll thank Raj for doing most of the legwork and getting that set up for us, but I think we're finding it's been a very useful system so far. And I will say predominantly most of the entries going into Guardian are positive. It's a number of really good things that officers are doing, and a lot of that is based on public feedback. So now it's the actual emails or mail that comes to the department is scanned and put right into the system. So it's nice to be able to reference some of that. Training, again, just like the professional development piece, training this year is really the first year we've been able to send people on courses. So we're a bit behind on that. We spent a significant amount of money on training to this point in the year. All good and needed training. Like, for example, we developed two of our officers have gone on basic firearms instructors course, and they will be taking over basically that program internally for the training and annual testing of officers, and it's mandatory training. We've already lost one of our officers that was doing it through attrition, and another one's gone to URSU. So we're seeing things like that haven't been addressed for a couple of years, and we potentially all of a sudden will find ourselves without proper officers and proper training in those areas. So the good news is I still think, even though we've expended a lot of money at this point of the year on training, front end loaded it in the year, and we still have some training coming up, but we're not in any danger of going over budget in that area. It's just we did most of the training and spending early in the year. The last thing I'll point out is in the investigational expenses. The Crown has fairly recently implemented a new requirement that the case is going for charge approval now have to have all the statements transcribed, whereas before the officers could do a can say, so general summary of what each witness would say. Now with the requirement of those statements to be transcribed, we're already over our annual allotment for transcribing for the year, and we're basically halfway through the year. So that's going to be a permanent issue we're going to have to address, but that'll probably be addressed this year. Budget. work with the CFO of the city on how do we try and maybe move some money from somewhere else, so it's not fully people ask for money, but it does become a significant cost. And I think those are the main highlights. So as I said, we're technically 1.76% over budget where we're at in the year, but I think some of the front end loading spending will level off now, and I anticipate we're going to recoup that in the second half of the year.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions? Just a couple for clarification, Chief. You might want to, just so we have the public's watching us and some members here, just describe our Keep a Prisoner program, just so everybody's clear. These prisoners are not all our prisoners, so we run that program.
Yeah, really, there's a couple of different areas where we be reimbursed. So sometimes we may hold from the RCMP, so that the sheriffs are bringing prisoners that are what they call provincial prisoners. So one that have had their either been remanded in custody through justice of the peace or a judge would be a provincial prisoner. Anyone who's coming back for a first or subsequent appearance in court would be a provincial prisoner, and they would be housed here waiting for their court appearance, and then housed here after the court appearance, waiting transport back to whatever facility they might be in. So the funding that we get is for prisoners who technically aren't ours. We're detention or holding facility for them while they're in transit or assisting somebody else. Prisoners that we arrest in town, barring whatever release mechanism that's going to be, we don't get funding back for that. It's a cost of our business. Budget.
And on that note, we've been without that revenue pretty well for 2 years now because of COVID. So that's why you notice the bump in that line. The other one is the traffic fine sharing. It's not on our tickets either.
No, every province does it a little bit differently, but the way I understand it done in BC is that the total number of traffic fines that are written by all the police departments in the province, and that's likely in provincial municipalities, or sorry, provincial jurisdictions. Not clear on how they calculate it related to tickets written by a municipal department in their own municipality, but that's calculated as well. So at the end of the year, it's prorated based on department size or population, and it's distributed to those specific departments. Other provinces calculate it on where the ticket is written, and then it's distributed back to the police force of jurisdiction. So BC runs a little bit differently than some of the other provinces.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Yeah.
I just am curious, obviously, sorry, this is my first budget here. What is the difference between total expenses and total police services? At the bottom there?
Well, some of that would be, Shelley, correct me if I'm wrong on some of this, but there's expenses that haven't had the revenues that we generate taken off of them yet. So really, the total expenses will be more than what the expense of the police department is, because we're generating revenue as well. So it cancels some of the expenses out.
That hasn't been accounted for yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we've expended the money, but we've recouped it, just like the grant and stuff. So it grant cancels it out, so it ends up not being an expense to the department.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of makes sense.
I think so. And then I did have one more question about under operations. Maybe you explain it in, but this police op line that is 141%. I'm just curious what's happening there.
Yeah, so that's where those couple of areas like the materials and supplies goes into police operations. So we bought that equipment. So it gets added onto that line as an expense, but then there was that the one case, it was the 19,000 grant money that cancels some of it out. So it's a little bit misleading. Like we've spent the money, but we've got funds delegated delegated to us from somewhere else to cover it off. Yeah, the Guardian system that we got set up this year cost us a little bit more money up front. And then again, kind of a good news, bad news thing with the last while, being able to hire a few more people and deal with some of our resourcing issues. Along with that comes with having to buy them uniforms and equipment, body armor, and some of that stuff is a little bit expensive. So we spent a little more money than would in an average year, just because we hired a few more people this year.
Great, thank you.
Okay, could I have a motion to move receipt of the financial report, please? Devin, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much. The BCACP updates or BCACP updates, probably.
Yeah.
Pardon?
The chief.
You're going to do that, okay.
Yeah, they're
Community policing.
Maybe
updates.
start with what the acronym means,
Yep.
because I remember my first meeting.
Yeah, a lot of
I had
acronyms.
no idea what it is.
so every province has one of these. So BC is obviously British Columbia, and that's the Association of Chiefs of Police. That's BCACP. And then there's a smaller group which is just made up of the municipal departments. So the RCMP aren't included in BCAMCP, which is Association of Municipal Chiefs of Police. But we quite often have the meetings together. It's just obviously there's some things that specifically affect the municipalities that don't affect the RCMP. So oftentimes there's a separate session anyways with municipal police chiefs.
That makes sense.
And we actually just had the first in-person BCACP meeting this past June. First day was the AMCP, so we had our municipal chiefs meeting the first day. The RCMP had their own meetings as the provincial police force, along with a number of municipalities they police in, obviously. And then the next 2 days were everybody together, so BCACP. There are things that were discussed in camera, so we can't report on those specifically, but again, some of the conduct stuff and some of the issues that are been in the press recently, we've got updates on. Some of the big things revolve around JIBC and funding for the JIBC, which is the Justice Institute, which is where all municipal police officers in the province train. They also offer a lot of training to police officers in general, so the RCMP go there for courses and stuff too at times. But like everything, the costs of training continue to rise, and significant discussion around how the cost sharing is going to work and who's responsible for what. So that took up a fair portion of the meeting. We had some discussions around the BC Police Act and the special committee reports on some of the recommendations, and we participated in some of those meetings too, giving recommendations on how to modernize and update the Police Act and work in some better efficiencies around some of the things that the Police Act deals with. E-coms, which we're fortunate here with our own dispatch, doesn't affect us, but e-coms is like the call center that takes the calls for a big portion of the province and for the vast majority of municipal departments. And, some of the struggles that they're having between volume, capacity, resources, and things like that. Serious habitual offenders, dealing with protests, Brown Police Liaison Committee updates. And I thought it was really good in just the fact that we're back to the first in-person meeting. You kind of lose out on that contact. And I think it was a very productive networking and partnership session during the days and the breaks and even in the evenings. And I think as a result, we've advanced a number of new initiatives and garnered some assistance from some of the bigger departments to help us with some of the things we're struggling with, and some of those really good initiatives that the DCO, the deputy chief, will update on. We heard some of his updates, but I think it was a very valuable thing to try and get back to. It was a busy time. It was tough to be away, and you kind of hate going to those things, but after, it's always like, it's a good thing we went to that person and got a lot of it came out of it. So if there's no questions on that, I'll move to the community policing, which is the next topic.
The other one, Chief, before you go to that, the integrated road service down Ursu, which was mentioned.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. That's that partnership we have with the RCMP locally where we have police officers working with them.
Yeah, Shiloh explained that to
Yeah.
me when we did my
So
board.
that's the Ursu one.
Thank you.
On the community policing thing, we've been, it's been a little bit slower of a June, I think going into the summer, but we participated in the city's climate action plan group had an e-bike fair in town. So I attended, some of the officers throughout the night attended as well. We hoped, we were actually going to have a booth and have our e-bikes there, but actually they were in for some servicing or something. But I'm not an e-bike expert, so I don't know exactly what they, so as it happened, they happened to be in that. So, but we still went over and participated, dealt a little bit with that. On Canada Day, Detective Constable Sarah Hanna and myself attended the opening ceremonies as part of the color guard. Participated in the opening ceremonies, speeches and that, and took a bunch of pictures, visited with some people, and it was a good morning. We also had a number of reservists and some extra officers in that were out on foot patrol in the park, and just being out there and being visible. And I'm hoping that had something to do with it, but in the end, it was a really good day. We had no serious incidents or files that came out of that. So pretty good sized crowds down at the park, and it sounded like there was a lot of people out in the evening and that. So it was really nice to see that people were happy to get out and wanted to celebrate a little bit again, but nobody got into any great mischief or anything, and nobody got hurt. So that's always a good thing. Another thing, as I was mentioning at the beginning, Jack's still there. Jack and I had a meeting this morning actually, and everybody probably knows, but Jack is the executive director with Nelson Cares. So we had a good talk on just some of the community issues and things we can work together on and move things forward and discuss the DAC and some of those things as well. And as was also mentioned, we had a meeting back in late May with the West Kootenay people for racial justice. And I was going to say the same thing. I thought it was a good, positive first meeting. And we had a discussion on setting up a public forum or a town hall down the road and just seeing how, maybe the DAC can be part of that. But it was for further discussion at another meeting. Look forward to those upcoming meetings as well. And that's it for the community policing, and I'll move on to the Nelson Police Foundation updates, unless there was any questions on the community. Okay, so we had a Nelson Police Foundation meeting in June, and just for some clarity on the Nelson Police Foundation isn't, it doesn't fall under the police board or the police department per se. They're their own separate entity, but they work to support the police, some of those extra costs for equipment or things that benefit the community. So many of you have probably seen those speed signs around the schools. That was a Nelson Police Foundation initiative. So they kind of are working in conjunction with the police department to find things for the betterment of the community. So we had a meeting in June, 2 new directors. That was their first meeting. So Carla Wilkinson and Rebecca Carberry, 2 new directors. We had some preliminary discussions on a potential 3-on-3 or pickup basketball tournament and barbecue. Discussed some of the 125th anniversary memorabilia, challenge coin, and things that we made for the 125th anniversary of the police department, and the gala event that's scheduled for November. So still a lot of planning to go into that. It's a formal dinner that I guess is very well received and missed by a lot of the people that attend that annually. So this will be the first one in 3 years, I think. Shiloh, is it 2 or 3? 3 years. So I think it's going to be a nice event and a good community event. And just along with that, there was some discussion, some of the directors are going to reach out and look for potentially some corporate sponsorship of that, just to try and manage some of the increasing costs, and that'll help us not have to pass them on in ticket prices to have the event run. So either way, it's going to be a good event and hopefully not too expensive, and should have good turnout for it.
Excuse me, Chief, is it intended to be a fundraiser?
Yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
fundraising portion to
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
and along with the ticket prices, it was at the, or I'm gonna mess up, is it the Osprey Foundation?
Yeah, the Osprey Foundation manages all the money.
Oh, okay, great.
So there'll be a tax receipt portion of your
Mhm.
ticket as well.
Great.
Thank you. Raj, you're up.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to give a quick update in regards to restorative justice. The program is doing very well. We're going to be going into the schools in the city of Nelson as the fall and running a program called Own It. That'll commence in September till November, and then back in January till April. And files to date, we have 19 files to date, restorative justice.
Great.
You're welcome.
Sorry, just clarification on that one. I think the last time you reported on that, they weren't going to do that in the schools because they didn't have funding.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
What
provide more
happened?
detail in camera.
oh, okay.
So I'll provide more detail in regards to how we wind up securing some funding and
Oh, okay. Well, that's good news anyway. I'm glad to hear that that's happening in the schools.
I'll jump in on that because I forgot to put that in there. The Nelson Police Foundation is actually helping pay for some of that. So
Great. Oh,
that's
good.
one of the things that-
Excellent. Awesome. Good to hear it.
Director's reports. Request for funding for the CAPG. Shiloh, we'll have to turn to you on this. What have we done in the past?
We don't typically sponsor. So, just too small.
British Columbia.
Yeah.
owns the other.
Yeah.
Unless any of the directors wish to participate, move on from there. And the conference, anybody interested in attending the conference?
Virtual.
Have a look and see if that's.
It's over the weekend. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Is it?
I can register you all and then you can apply. So you can just pick and choose which webinars you want to attend.
It looks like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It says 8th,
For you.
the 8th to the 11th. The 8th is Thursday.
Would be the Indigenous conference, I believe. And then I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the remaining part of it.
Okay.
If you could share the conference information, then it would be,
Yeah, I think I
did it? Or maybe with this package?
Yeah, it's in the,
Oh,
it's in your
okay.
package. And
can
There's
send
a,
you the link as well.
there's a download scan in
Yeah.
there. I'm assuming that works, Shiloh, that scan?
Yeah, I'll send the link out to everybody.
Okay. Next is chair's report, nothing to report, new business and date items. Action list, and that's a short action list here, as you can see in your agenda. You okay with that?
Yeah, strategic planning. I think we should start that next month.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, we don't meet next month in September.
Yeah, September, and then with the whole board.
Yep.
All the new people here, so.
You're good. September, meeting's September 7th.
You'll still be here. All right, next is meeting to adjourn. From second, please. On favor? Thank you. Next part of the meeting is